Terrell Owens, T.O., is live on the line with us right now. Hello, Terrell Owens, John Murphy, and Steve Tasker up here in Buffalo. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. How about you? Where are you? In Alabama working out, did I hear? Or are you in Dallas? Where are you hanging out these days?
No, actually, right now I'm in Florida.
Florida?
Yeah, I'm in
Florida.
Florida.
You have launched what you're calling the COVID-19 Driveway Challenge. What's that all about, Terrell?
Yeah, so obviously when I played in Philly, I had the infamous sit-up press conference and all that good stuff going on.
Yes,
so,
I recall. Yes.
Yeah, so honestly, I was just basically just trying to do my part, just trying to really kind of inspire, motivate people, obviously during this, unexpected, time that we're dealing with COVID-19, that the pandemic. So just wanted to try to just really just encourage people to kind of just stay at home. And then obviously if you're at home, you're not really doing a whole lot. I'm sure a lot of families out there across the country have, I think it's been, about 4 weeks now. I think a lot of us probably have gotten to know each other real well, and probably ready for this thing to be over with. But just to try to get people to, just trying to be patient, stay at home. And if you're at home, just try to do something with your time. I know a lot of people have been doing puzzles. I know I have, board games. And creatively, I tried to get get people to do 19 sit-ups in their driveway, whether they had an ab bench or not, or if you can, like I said in the video, just do it old school. Get somebody to hold your feet down and crank out those 19 push-ups for the COVID-19 pandemic.
I gotta be honest with you, Tio. You're staying in better shape than I am. I don't know if I could do 19 sit-ups.
That's all right. I think you can do it, even if they're assisted 19. I think you'll be able to do it.
Yeah, that might be. What do you remember about your time of arriving in Buffalo? How did that all take shape? And what do you remember about the very first time you heard of the possibility about coming and playing in Buffalo so many years ago?
Honestly, the opportunities that were very, very limited. I knew that at that stage, and obviously, when you get into your 30s in the National Football League, teams, GMs, owners that feel like you're over the hill, that obviously your best years are behind you. But for some people, there is an exception for that, and I put myself in that category, and so I honestly knew that I had probably more years of football to play. And it was just about, someone giving me an opportunity. And so when the opportunity arose, I kind of just vetted it out. Obviously, I think I've heard, a lot of people that weren't too keen on going to Buffalo, whether it was because of the team, the city, things of that nature. But I didn't allow that to deter me from an opportunity. And so they offered me a 1-year deal. And so I figured, okay, let me just go in. And if I'm productive in this 1 year, let's see what happens after that. And so outside of that, I remember my agent at the time, he basically came to me and he goes, yo, it's like, there's one thing that they wanted me to tell you. And I'm like, what's that? And it was like, they can't guarantee you a starting position, a number one spot. And I'm like, well, I've never done that anyway. And I said, I don't have a problem going in competing for the position. And I think that's obviously from the media's portrayal of who I was and who I am over the course of my career, that they wanted to bring that to, my agent's attention to relay to me. And I thought that was very odd. But other than that, like I said, I didn't allow that to deter me. And I'm like, I don't have a problem coming in competing. I knew they had Lee Evans there, a very good receiver. And so I know they had a young quarterback in Trent Edwards, Alex Van Pelt. I think he was the offensive coordinator. I think he may have been. And they basically said, we want to bring you in. We feel like you have the skill set to do what we want to do and help bring along this young guy in Trent Edwards. So I was like, all right, cool. So it was a 1-year deal, and we made it happen. And then at that given time, I was shooting a reality show. It was a TO show, and so we just kind of incorporated, that in the midst of what I was doing. And so that was when I got the warm reception in Buffalo. We obviously notified them of what I was doing, and again, like I said, it worked out. And I couldn't be more happy and pleased with how the city of Buffalo welcomed me when I stepped off that airplane.
You had a productive year, Terrell. You had 55 catches, 5 of them for touchdowns. So obviously you put up numbers during your one season in Buffalo, right?
Yeah, and I think if you look at the first part of the season, I was pretty much, I was non-existent. And I think that was obviously due, with no discount or discredit to Trent Edwards, but he was a young quarterback, and I wasn't his main target. And so he was throwing a lot of the balls to the tight ends, running backs, and obviously Lee Evans was getting a bulk of those balls. And so, like I said, for me, I was like, man, how can I get involved? And I was wanting to be more involved. But if you look at the first part of the season and look at the last half of the season, I think you'll understand and see why I was very productive toward the end. And that was because, unfortunately for Trent, he ended up getting injured. There were some things that happened. And here comes Ryan Fitzpatrick. And this was that the precursor to, a preface to what we now know as Fitzmagic. And so a lot of people have asked me, over the course of my career, who was one of the best quarterbacks that I played with. And a lot of people think I'm joking when I say this, but I tell them Fitzpatrick, and it's because of just how smart he was and is. The way that I was able to really put up some numbers once he got behind the quarterback, got behind the center, and it shows you just the leadership, just the cerebral mind that he has. To obviously take advantage of who I was and my skill set, and I became a very valuable target. And really, and I think I broke a couple of records, late in that season. So once I got a capable quarterback that realized that, okay, let me get this guy the ball. He's watched me throughout the course of my career. Everybody got a sense and got a glimpse of what they've been seeing, throughout the course of my career.
Yeah, Terrell, I know you've kept track of what's going on around the National Football League, and you had to hear about the trade of Stefon Diggs coming to Buffalo. I know you've done it. You've been a big-time number one receiver. How big a difference can a guy like you or a guy like Stefon Diggs make to a team, and what kind of confidence can he give a quarterback?
I mean, obviously, I think when you look at Josh Allen and how he progressed, this year, from last year, and obviously getting you guys into the playoffs, and I'm sure there's a couple of plays here and there Josh Allen wish he could take back, a few decisions I'm sure a coach could feel like they could have made here and there to make a difference. But when you add a dynamic weapon like Stefon Diggs, I think everybody's well aware of what he did with the Minnesota Vikings. That's a quarterback's dream, especially when you have a guy like him who can take the top off defenses. And I think if Stefon is listening to this and he can adapt to just what a number one receiver role is, and it's not just catching the ball, but doing the little things to help himself get open, help enable other guys to get open, he's going to be an even better receiver than he is now. And so you have a strong arm quarterback in Josh Allen who, from watching him, especially I watched you guys in the playoff, he can make all the throws on the football field. You have guys like that, and you saw, some of the inexperience or lack of in decision making, late in that ball game. And I think, he'll learn from that. And that's what those type of games are for, especially now with this upcoming season, you don't have to make all the plays. You allow the weapons around you to create the production and create, the atmosphere where ultimately at the end of the day, he's going to be, the reason why they won games, but, just because of his decision making, because everything starts with, with the head coach. And then, once that coach calls the play, it's up to Josh Allen and the rest of those guys to execute that play. So they're in good hands.
With T.O. Terrell Owens on the line with us. Terrell, 2009, your one season in Buffalo, and one play I definitely recall was a game at Jacksonville. I think it was Perry Fuel's first game as interim head coach, and you caught a 98-yard touchdown pass in that game. The Bills went on to lose it, but it was kind of an eye opener. Like, wow, this can happen. This offense can make big plays. Do you recall that play?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're on the 2-yard line. And again, this is late in the season. This is where, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick had taken over at the quarterback position at this point. And so we're on the 2-yard line. We're coming out. And obviously, I think anybody knowing tendencies, when you're that deep into the end zone, you're going to run the ball. Typically, you're going to have a 7 to 8-man, 9-man front, and then you're going to have the safeties kind of cheating up a little bit. So they try to disguise it. They tried to disguise it with cover 2, and then Ryan, I remember vividly, Ryan went through his cadence, and I saw the safety start to cheat up a bit. And so I was lined up out wide right. And so I looked I looked inside, and I saw Ryan make a few calls, and he made some checks, and he looked at me, and I didn't budge. I kind of knew automatically what he was thinking. And so he made a check at the line. I knew what that was. And once that safety cheated down, I was one-on-one with the cornerback. And so, again, for somebody my age, I'm sure a lot of people didn't expect me to get beyond or get deep on a lot of guys, even throughout the course of my career. But I have deceptive speed, and it was just a connection and just an understanding of what I saw with the defense, and I understood what he saw, and it was just one of those checks, and the rest is history. All I had to do was really just get a release and beat the corner, and he put the ball. He had a little time once he dropped back, and he threw it up, and I went and got it. And so it was a 98-yarder, the longest of my career, and if I'm not mistaken, it was a record for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I think it was. With Terrell Owens, T.O. on the line with us, talking about his year with the Bills and about his NFL career. Kind of reached a culmination a couple of summers ago when you went in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Terrell. And I know that was, contentious for a while. You weren't happy that you had to wait a little while. But have you thought much about that in recent years, maybe reflected on going in the Hall of Fame, what it meant and how it worked out for you? What do you think?
Well, I think, for me, what it meant for me was just really kind of just a recognition. I guess I don't know if it's fair to say a validation, for my career, but obviously that process in which guys are inducted, there's a criteria in which whites are appointed to adhere to in order to nominate and then ultimately induct guys into the Hall of Fame. And when you think about the criteria of that, people can research it, then I felt like I checked all the boxes. And as you said, I mean, I wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, and some people say, well, it doesn't matter as long as you're in there. But, I think when you go out of your way, to somehow discredit a guy that has checked all the boxes, in which I did, at that point in time, I'm number 2, number 3 behind the greatest receiver of all time in Jerry Rice. And you make a concerted effort, by bringing up other things outside of just the mission statement, everything that the Hall of Fame embodies, and then the criteria. It irked me a bit. It really was a slap in the face, and for what I had done, not only for myself personally, from a professional and athletic standpoint, performance standpoint, but even just from my fans across the world. So I just took it upon myself to take matters into my own hands. I wasn't going to allow, people to really, stake my name in history by with some shenanigans. And so I chose to do it at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I called there and I asked them, if I could do it, and they blessed me with the opportunity to do it there under the condition it was, for the right reasons, and I assured them that it was. And so it worked out well. And for all the people that, that say that I regret it or I will regret it somewhere down the road, trust me, I talked to my mom, my family, especially my brothers and sisters that knew and have followed my career, and they saw how, really how the league was trying to do me. They had no problems with it. And for a lot of people, I watched a lot of the highlights and the commentary about he's going to miss it, this, and that, and the other. And I've said this time and time again, how can I ever miss something that I never experienced? So it wasn't about really me missing anything. And, as long as my family was happy, because everything that I did in my career, number one, it was for my grandmother who raised me and my mom. There was two strong women in my household that raised a fairly good young man and myself. And so I'm proud of that. They're proud of the fact that, how I did it, the way that I did it. And so at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Terrell Owens, our guest, Pro Football Hall of Fame receiver, former Buffalo Bill in 2009. Hey, T.O., I read somewhere that you have said publicly you want to see the Bills in the Super Bowl this year, and the game is in Tampa. Maybe they get to play the home team in Tampa this year, huh?
Hey, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely an opportunity. I think when you look at the teams now, you look at the parity of the league. I think everybody's kind of, there's no clear favorite. Obviously, you have Tom Brady now in the NFC, division. That's obviously a first for him, playing in the AFC for so long. So again, anything can happen, coming out of each division. So definitely, I think the way that, the Bills played last year, and as I alluded to and I mentioned to earlier with Josh Allen, I'm sure I watched that game against the Texans. I'm sure, like I said, you guys were right on the cusp of winning that game. And so I'm sure he's going to review that tape. And I touched on it, too. It's just, him allowing the players around him to make plays. There are going to be plenty of times where he'll be able to assess what he can do and how he can do it and when he can do it as the season unfolds. So definitely, like I said, if I'm hoping, with all honestly, the bad luck that the Buffalo Bills have had, over the years of being in 4 Super Bowls back to back and not winning, then if any city deserves a Super Bowl, it's Buffalo, New York.
Terrell, early in your retirement and earlier, you had flirted with coming back and trying to play and getting a chance to redo your career later on. And now, this year, since yesterday, Rob Gronkowski, who's been out for 1 year, has decided he's going to give it a shot with Tampa Bay. What are your thoughts on, how good did you feel a year after you left the league? And did you feel like you could still play? I think you did. What about Gronkowski? Can he come back, help the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? What do you think about a guy retiring for a year and then coming back?
Hell, I've been retired for about 9 years, and I feel like I can come back and be productive at some point.
There you go.
But honestly, just to touch on that too, when I left, when I completed that 1 year in Buffalo, I honestly thought I was going to come back, and especially with the way that I produced toward the end of the year. I thought I was going to come back and play another year or so. And so obviously I didn't find out later on that it was Buddy Nix that kind of swept me away. And, that was disappointing, considering you would think that relationships and just some sort of connection that he would have at least addressed me, talked to me about it or what have you. But considering I went to UT Chattanooga where, I played my freshman year under Buddy Nix. And then just to hear, just to read the article that Matt put out the other day, it was just discouraging to hear, him, say that he watched tape and he said that I was done and, pretty much I was washed up. But, a year later I go to Cincinnati and I play with Chad and I was less than 20 yards from a 1,000-yard season. I had 9 touchdowns, and that was far from a guy that in my eyes, that was washed up. So I was very fond of the receiving core that they had there with Stevie Johnson and Lee Evans and obviously, like I said, Ryan Fitzpatrick and just a nucleus of guys. Who knows what could have happened, had I stayed another year. But just to touch on too and segue into the Gronkowski situation. He's taking some time off, obviously, to allow his body to heal. So that's going to only bode well for him and the Buccaneers, for that matter. Given the fact that he's kept himself in shape, and I've seen Gronk. I've done a couple of things with him, entertainment-wise, and he looks in shape. He's dropped in some pounds, dropped in weight a little bit. So I'm sure he's going to go into the season obviously fresher, obviously a lot healthier, and when you have a quarterback in Tom Brady that you're very, very familiar with, and vice versa, that's only going to bode well for the Buccaneers. And obviously they have two great receivers on the outside when you talk about Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and the defense didn't play well. Like I said, that's not to factor in what Tom Brady brings offensively, especially with the decision-making that he's going to be bringing to that offense.
Hey, Terrell, thanks for this. It's great to catch up with you. Hang in there, and I hope to talk again soon sometime. Thank you very much.
Hey, man, anytime, man. Go Bills.